Well, hey there. You made it to video number 3 of why the rich continue to get richer and the poor stay poor. Okay, so we talked about in video number 1 the gap. We talked about how in order to start accumulating a little bit of money, you got to widen the gap. If you live off of what you make, you're never going to widen the gap, right? And that doesn't matter if you make $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month. Now, obviously, the $10,000 a month guy is probably going to have a little bit nicer house, a little bit nicer car, eat better foods, do those sorts of things, but he's never going to get ahead in life. He's always going to kind of be stuck because he's never going to widen the gap. So we got to widen the gap. And then once we start doing that, we got to introduce leverage into our life. So if that's you and you own a business, you're trying to grow a business, well, you figure out how to get product market fit with your product so that you can just pour gas on it. You can promote it like crazy. You can make the product better, and then you can start hiring when it hurts. So we want to use leverage. We talked about that in video number 2 in our life. So if you are just a W-2 employee, that's all that you do, and you trade time for money every day, all day, then you're never introducing leverage into your life. So here is video number 3's whole premise. So now that we've increased the gap, now that we have leverage in our life, now we want to take that money, that extra money, and we want to put it into a vehicle that is going to continually make us money. And obviously you can do lots of things here, right? So there's so many places that you could invest money. You could buy other businesses, buy real estate. You could put your money in many different things. You could put your money in other businesses. You could be an investor in other businesses. You could invest your money in baseball cards. You can invest your money in sneakers. You can invest your money in real estate. You can invest your money in cryptocurrency. You can invest your money in the stock market. There's a billion things that you could, once you accumulate this cash, you can go invest it in. But I'm going to talk to you today about what I believe to be the number one thing that you should invest your money in and why. So the number one thing that I believe that you should invest your money in is real estate. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Yes, real estate because, well, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you why. Great real estate investments, if you do it right, if you learn a little bit, if you study, if you learn what you're doing, should spin off no more than about 10% of your cash back to you every single year. So if you had $100,000 that you invest in real estate, you should make no less than $10,000. If you make a really good investment, you'll make like $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 or even $50,000 if you make a really good investment. But if you do a relatively average job, you should make 10% back on your money. So if, let's say you accumulated $100,000 in cash, you invested it into real estate, you should make $10,000 per year back in cash flow. Okay? So Zach's master plan, if you're wondering, is to figure out over the course of my life how to have a gap of about $1 million to $2 million so that I could go invest all of that into real estate and I could collect $100,000 to $200,000 to $300,000 per year in relatively passive income. That is Zach's master take over the world plan. So we've talked about cash flow. We've talked about investing money into a real estate asset, and this is a real estate asset like commercial real estate, like apartment or like office buildings. It could be apartment buildings. It could be land. It could be an Airbnb or VRBO property. This is probably the route that I'm going to take. It could be, you're buying and fixing up properties and then refinancing them and doing that again and again. We call that the Burr method. So there's so many different ways that you can go. But I wanted to just spark an idea in your mind through the series of these videos of why the rich get richer and the poor stay poor is because the poor never create a gap. They always live off of exactly what they make. And because of that, they're never going to have any money saved, not in a year, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, not in 20 years. And they're going to have to work really hard their whole life. So what we want to do, especially if you're young, we want to do it regardless, but especially if you're young, is we want to figure out how to widen the gap, create leverage. And then I'm going to give you a couple different reasons why I believe real estate is the best investment that you can make. For example, my wife and I, the house that we bought to fix up, back in 2018, I think we paid $222,000 for this house, okay? It was not a terrible house. It had a shop on the property. Is really why we bought it, actually, because I needed a shop for Iron by Iron Woodworks. But when it was appraised, it appraised for $276,000 before we touched it, before we did anything. So immediately, just by purchasing the property, okay, I paid $222,000. It appraised for $276,000. We made $54,000 by signing a piece of paper. Okay, I want you to just stop for a minute and think about how hard you have to work every year for $54,000. Okay? It's hard. It's hard work, right? By buying a piece of property, we immediately made $54,000. Okay? Want you to simmer on that. Then, over the next 2 or 3 years, we begin working on that piece of property, fixing it up, making it more valuable, making it more appealing, making it more beautiful, right? New fixtures, we knocked a wall out, we did several things on that property. When we went to sell the property, we sold it for over $400,000. We probably put $15 or $20, maybe $30,000 in it total, but we increased its value from $276,000 to over $400,000, and we had also paid down our loan from $210,000 because we put like 5% down. So our loan was like $210,000 to down around $200,000. So we had this giant gap that we created in wealth from that property. Okay, now that was our personal home. We then took that money. A large portion of that money, we put a down payment on another house. We did some other things that we needed to do, but we bought an Airbnb property. The Airbnb property that we bought is a $500,000 property. It has 6 units on it. We rent out those units. Like I said in our last video, it cash flows anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 per month, depending upon the month, how good it is or how slow it is. What's beautiful is that property is going to appreciate over time. So what does that mean? That means that if we didn't do anything to real estate is always worth more down the road, in general, 90% of the time, than it is today. So let's say it's a $500,000 property. Okay, let's say that it appreciates 3% a year. Okay, so next year, it's going to be worth $515,000. Okay, let's say that after that, the next year, it's going to be worth $530,000. Then it's going to be worth $546,000. Then it's going to be worth $562,000. Then in year 5, it's going to be worth $579,000. Okay, so just by owning the property for 5 years, we will have made $79,000 in appreciation. Okay, just by owning the property. This is not including the cash flow that we've already talked about. Okay, so we have cash flow that we're getting. We have appreciation. It's just going to be worth more over time. Now, let's talk about depreciation. Okay, well, Zach, how exactly does this work? This is so confusing because how can it appreciate and depreciate at the same time? It's a great question. Let me explain. The U.S. tax law says that if you own a piece of property or if you own something inside of an LLC, you get to put that on a depreciation schedule. And so if you own computers or you own equipment or you own a vehicle or you own real estate, all this is depreciating over time. So what this means is that let's say that you own a $500,000 piece of property that is depreciating on a 30-year schedule. It's going to depreciate $16,666 per year. So let's say that this property makes me $40,000 per year, but then it depreciated $16,666. I don't have to pay taxes on the $40,000. I pay taxes on $13,333. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. The other beautiful part of this is that not only do you get the cash flow, not only is it appreciating over time, it's going to be worth $80,000 more. That's if it appreciates 3% per year, but it's going to be worth $80,000 more in 5 years than it is today. It is depreciating over time, so you get the tax benefits, but you also are paying off the mortgage over time. And you're not paying it out of your pocket, you're paying it out of the pocket of your tenant or your renter, or you're paying it out of the pocket of, for us, that's an Airbnb property, so our guests that come and stay at our place. And so what happens is you create, again, this giant chasm, this gap between what the property is worth and what you owe on it. So in 5 years, guys, to buy the $500,000 property, we had to put $100,000 down. So we still owe $400,000 on the property. And in 5 years, it's going to be worth $580,000. We're going to only owe $340,000. So there you go. You've created $250-ish thousand, again, in equity. Now, $100,000 of that is money that you put into the deal. So, but you've made $150,000 in 5 years, not including the cash flow, just by owning the property. Again, this is how the rich get richer. and why most people stay poor. Because this is stuff that requires knowledge, it requires hard work, and it requires you to accumulate money so that you can invest into those types of deals, okay? I'm gonna wrap this video up. Hopefully, this 3-part video series has been helpful to you on why the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. And so if you're anything like me, you don't want to stay poor forever, right? I don't want my kids to have to worry about how they're going to afford taking care of me when I'm 70, 80, 90 years old, right? I want to be able to take care of my children in a way that my parents weren't able to take care of me and their parents weren't able to take care of them, right? I want to be able to give generously. I want to be able to live a life of freedom to where I'm not bound to a desk every day, right? And all this happens when we start thinking long-term about our life. We start envisioning what do we want out of life and how do we start getting there. So we want to take a business entity. We want to create a lot of value in that. We want to hire and create leverage inside of that. We want to start accumulating cash, and we want to park it into long-term investments. So hopefully this helps. If this has helped you in any way, make sure you subscribe. And if you are a woodworking business owner, and this is you're like, man, Zach, this resonates with me so much. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I want to create, but I've got to figure out the first part, which is how do I create something that will widen the gap on a day-to-day or month-to-month or year-to-year basis. Then I want you to go and I want you to apply for our Woodworking Business Accelerator program in the link below. That's what we help woodworkers do, is we help you figure out how to find product market fit, how to market that in a really powerful way, how to create a strong brand so that you can charge premium prices, ultimately so you can scale a business that has enterprise value that you can continue to cash flow off of or sell for a really great lump sum. So hopefully this has helped you. I love each of you very much. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next video.